Welcome to the Our Team Podcast, powered by eXp Realty. Are you an agent looking to level up? Are you someone looking to buy or sell real estate? Fantastic. This is the show for you.
Hey, thank you for joining us on the Our Team Podcast. I'm Brian Auer, and we've never done a show before where I was by myself, so I'm feeling kind of lonely here. So be sure to leave comments so I can at least retroactively feel less lonely. I wanted to go over something today that has been coming up a lot on our phone calls. Seems like there's a lot of people that are shopping for vacant land right now, especially in an area where we do a lot of business, and that is in Fallbrook. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to do a quick little podcast on things to consider when buying vacant land, because it sounds like a great idea, right? Actually sounds kind of sexy. Let's go buy a lot, build a nice home, and we don't have to worry about, all these multiple offers and all the crazy stuff that we're actually having to deal with here. Let's just go see if we can find a beautiful property and build our dream home, right? Sounds great to me. I would actually love to do that. It's kind of been a dream of mine to do that. So let's just cut to it. There's a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. And I'm not going to give exact numbers, but you have to count the cost. It's not as easy as just buying the dirt and getting some plans together and buying it. In fact, it's not even as easy as buying the dirt and slapping a manufactured home on it. There is a lot to consider. The first thing, and these aren't in order of importance, but you got to consider water, for example. Connecting to municipal water if it's nearby, if there actually is public water. Depending on how close it is, it can be literally $20,000 to $50,000 to get that done. And a lot of the reason why that is like that is because in many areas there's already assessments on the water, and just bringing in that infrastructure, so you have to pay that. That's part of just getting it connected. So that's a big cost. You have to factor that. If you're going to dig a well because there's no water available, then that's a great option too. But you have to do a lot of testing to make sure it's, doable, and that can cost you. To actually dig a well could be $20,000 to $100,000. I've had 2 clients where it cost $100,000 to dig the well, and then you have to consider: is it going to be potable water? Is it going to be drinkable? How much am I going to spend to get a well that I can only use to water my lawn and not drink? You could filter it, but I'm just saying it's not as easy to live. It's just something you really have to keep in mind, that just water can be anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 connecting to the municipal if it's available, and way more than that if you're going to have to dig a well. Again, don't want to discourage you from doing this, but just keep it in mind. It has to be in your overall cost. The other thing is electricity. If you are close to Edison or San Diego Power, then it can be less expensive than you think. A lot of people think this is the most expensive part, but if there's actually power poles in the neighborhood or in the area where you're building, it's not quite as crazy. We were recently involved in a transaction where we were quoted between $30,000 and $150,000 to bring the power and set up the meter and all that. It ended up being $70,000. Still a lot of money, something to consider when you're buying. If just the meter and the setup on the property with permits, things like that, just with the permits and the meter, it's usually $5,000 to $10,000. At least the deals I've been involved in, it's about what it is. And really, it's something you have to be looking for power poles when you're looking for property, because if there's already power out there, then it's going to be a lot less money. And what about sewage? You're going to have toilets on your house, right? You're going to be flushing some toilets. You're going to take in showers. You're going to have to make sure that you have a good septic system, because if you can't connect to sewer, if your lot is kind of out there, then you're going to have to do a perk test to see what the earth is capable of absorbing. And so when you put in your septic system, and get all permits and stuff like that, it can be 20 to 50 grand. And if that doesn't work because it's not going to perk very well, or you run into an issue where it's really rocky and you didn't know, and so once the installation starts, they tell you, hey, you're going to have to go with some type of alternative septic system, that could easily be 100 grand. So you see where I'm going with this. I'm not trying to talk people out of buying vacant land. There's a lot of beautiful places to buy, as long as you factor in all of these possible expenses that can kind of hit you upside the head, and you're like, oh geez, if I would have known this, I just would have bought a property that's already finished. So let's talk about let's say you already figured out the water, the electric, the sewer, all of that stuff is just kind of, you've counted the costs. Worst case scenario, you're fine with that. You have to do, before you start to build, you're going to be needing to do soil testing, grading to prep the space. If it's really hilly, it's going to be very expensive. I was just quoted a price that if it's flat and usable already, it can still be 50 grand just to grade and get it ready with draining and all that kind of stuff. It's very expensive. If it's really steep and you're going to have to carve into a hill to create a pad, then expect at least $100,000 to $150,000 just on that piece. So again, this is adding up, right? It's really getting to the point where it's like, I really need to make sure that I'm really invested in buying a lot and building a house. Right now, according to all the people that I know, like, and trust in home building, it's about $300 to $325 a square foot to build. That does not include landscaping or putting in a driveway to get there. So you have to factor in all of that as well. So as long as you are aware of those costs and you're okay with it, then you should be looking at vacant land, because it's something that you have the tolerance for. Again, I don't want to try to talk anybody out of buying vacant land. It's just that to improve it, the way you're thinking is what your dream is, it could end up being very costly. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So if you have any questions on that, or if you want to, if you want me to provide some real, like, more concrete numbers, because we've done this a lot where we've sold vacant land and really we're with somebody through that 2-year process. By the way, it takes about 2 years. You're not gonna build a lot, close escrow on it tomorrow, and be living in it next year. It absolutely takes way longer than that. In fact, on the average right now, post-COVID, we're being told that from the time you start doing the research and getting permits and start looking into water, electric, perk tests, all these kind of things, before you as you're getting ready to do that, from that time all the way until you get a certificate of occupancy and keys, is about 3 years right now. Can be a little bit less depending on what you're building and where it is, but that's kind of about what the time frame is. So that's another thing you have to be okay with. So we've done this. We've helped clients buy beautiful properties, and we're there for them and kind of watch the whole thing progress. So we know what we're talking about when it comes to these things. And again, if you have the tolerance for this, we can help you find an incredible lot to do this. But if you're just kind of toying with the idea, then you might want to, especially if this is going to be your first home, you might want to think of going a little bit of a different direction. And by the way, it's almost impossible to finance all of this. So one thing I forgot to tell you is you really have to be a cash buyer, because it's almost impossible. There are some products that will allow you to do buying a lot and do a construction loan, but for the most part, it's really, really difficult. And when you can find that, the interest rates are pretty high. So this is usually something that you want to do once you have a bunch of cash set aside to handle this whole thing. So anyway, that's all I got. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My link is in the description, as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Before you go, would you do us a favor? If you found any value in this content, would you please like and subscribe to it? Maybe even leave a comment. It really helps us out.